I want you to realize that you are in default mode. You have a choice. You're either going to repeat what you're doing or you're going to evolve it. Doing a mindset reset, write down your limiting belief. Once you've written that down, you're afraid of failure, you don't deserve success, all that kind of stuff. I don't know how to start. These are excellent. You're doing an excellent job. The first step to moving from that default, your default mode is to say I'm an imposter, I'm a loser, I'm not likable, nobody likes me, I'm not lovable. It has become part of your default mode network. And it's super important for you to realize.
지금 어떤 마음으로 앉아 계신가요? 저는 순간순간 초조함과 불안함이 찾아오곤 하는데 이걸 나 스스로 컨트롤하고 싶어서 많은 채널을 찾아보고 있답니다. 멜 로빈스는 두려움, 불안, 초조 이러한 부정적인 신체 상태는 우리가 설렘, 흥분, 기대를 느낄 때의 신체 상태와 똑같다고 말합니다. 흔히 우리가 불안하다고 생각되는 그 상태가 느껴진다면 뇌에 불안하다 보다 설레고 흥분되네 라고 전달하면 그대로 전달이 된다고 합니다. 그래서 불안하고 두려운 상태에 있을 때 몸 상태에 따라 결정되는 게 아니라 어떻게 해석하느냐에 따라 달라진다는 것입니다. 나쁜 습관은 좋은 습관으로 바꾸어야 합니다. 습관은 반복적인 행동이나 생각으로 인해 형성됩니다. 우리의 뇌는 자주 반복되는 행동이나 생각에 대한 신경회로를 강화시키는 경향이 있기 때문에 반복적으로 같은 행동이나 생각을 하면 그것이 점점 더 자동적으로 이루어지게 됩니다.
I want you to realize that you are in default mode. According to Dan Gilbert of Harvard, who wrote Stumbling into Happiness, 46.9% of the time, that's half of the day, you're in autopilot mode. You've got two modes in the way in which your brain operates. The default mode and the direct mode. So default I call autopilot. That's like when your thoughts drift, it's when you're on autopilot, it's when you go through your day without even thinking. The direct mode is the mode where you're present, where you're in the moment, where you're controlling what you think about. You have a choice. You're either going to repeat what you're doing or you're going to evolve it. There are two modes in your brain. There's autopilot and the things that you default to, and then there is your ability to deliberately choose what you are going to think about. And when you start to realize and embrace the fact that being a deliberate thinker is a skill, and it is one that I want you to master, and it's one that I want you to practice. Doing a mindset reset, those are encoded in the default network in your brain, and so it's going to be a process that you need to repeat. You know you want to make changes, you got a lot you want to do in your life, but then you start thinking about those changes and you immediately start catastrophizing. You start worrying, you start thinking about all the reasons why it's not going to happen. This is so common, and the reason why it's common is because somebody in your past either trained you to think this way, or you've had so many bad things happen that you've trained yourself to assume and predict that bad things are always going to happen to you. There will be bad things that happen. There will. It's a fact of life. But if you are constantly allowing your mind to default to thinking that bad things will happen, or thinking that you're out of shape, or thinking that you're a loser, or thinking that you're not worthy, or thinking that things aren't going to turn out, it becomes your default mode of thinking. Your default mode of thinking, scientists call it the default mode network. The default mode network is a series of neurons in your brain that has automated certain things. The reason why we have a default mode network is because we need it. There's so many things that you and I have to do every single day that shouldn't require us to do a lot of thinking. The problem is thinking patterns become part of your default mode network. Your default mode is to say I'm an imposter, I'm a loser, I'm not likable, nobody likes me, I'm not lovable. It has become part of your default mode network. And it's super important for you to realize that just like I could go from being a right-hander and teach myself how to be a left-hander, it is the exact same process for you to go from somebody who defaults to thinking negative garbage to becoming somebody who thinks directly. The same thing is true with when you start to switch your thoughts from the things that you default to being very direct and deliberate, to thinking things that are positive, that are supportive, that are optimistic, that are full of possibility. This is the work of changing the patterns in your mind. There's no other way to do it. And you can do it. It's going to require you to move from default or autopilot into a direct way of thinking. Because when you change how you think, you will change your life. We are trying to teach you how to become a more deliberate thinker. Think this, not that. What is your limiting belief? What is the thing that you think about yourself? Maybe your parents or your mother or your father taught you to think that way about yourself. Maybe you went through a horrible breakup and that person made you feel unworthy. Maybe you've had a bunch of setbacks in your life and that's what gave you that limiting belief. But what is your limiting belief? Now that you've identified your limiting belief, write down your limiting belief. I see a lot of, I'm not good enough. My mental health is holding me back. I can't run a successful business. I'm lazy and I can't do anything. I'm not healthy enough. Money is the issue. I'm scared to fail. What is the limiting belief that you have? Once you've written that down, you're afraid of failure. You don't deserve success. All that kind of stuff. I don't know how to start. These are excellent. You're doing an excellent job. The first step to moving from that default into getting deliberate is actually seeing it. So seeing it is fantastic because now we can start to understand that, whoa, this got programmed in. It's my default mode. I want to get rid of it. I don't have to live my life and I don't have to have a future where I constantly say things that are negative to myself. This is the most miraculous thing that I've ever heard. But the point is that if you don't get deliberate, you will be stuck with the default mode of thinking. And the way that you reprogram your default mode of thinking so that the default becomes positive and the default becomes courageous and the default becomes loving is first you catch the negative default and second, you direct it to something deliberate. So instead of thinking, no one likes me. This is mine because I think I'm a bad person. No one likes me. What I want you to think instead is the right people love me. That's pretty powerful. If you're somebody who says, I'm too old, here's what I want you to say, I have plenty of time. Or you could say, I have so much experience, I'm definitely going to succeed. If you say, I'm too young, then say anything you want from I have plenty of time to learn what I need to learn, to being young is an advantage, to whatever it is. The point that I'm trying to make is if your default is negative, I don't want you to think that. I want you to catch it when you do, and then I want you to think this, something positive.
습관은 일반적으로 3단계로 형성됩니다. 먼저 행동이나 생각을 시작하는 신호가 있는데 그것을 트리거라고 부릅니다. 예를 들어 스트레스를 받을 때 담배를 피웠다면 스트레스가 바로 트리거입니다. 그럼 스트레스에 반응하여 행동이나 생각을 실행합니다. 그것을 루틴이라고 부르는데 예를 들어 아침에 일어나면 바로 화장실에 가서 양치질을 하고 스트레스를 받으면 담배를 피우는 것 등이 루틴이 될 수 있습니다. 루틴을 실행한 후에는 보상이 있습니다. 이 보상은 행동이나 생각을 반복하게 만드는 원동력이 됩니다. 양치를 하면 입이 상쾌해지고 담배를 피우면 스트레스가 줄어드는 것처럼 느껴지는 것이 보상이 될 수 있습니다. 이렇게 트리거, 루틴, 보상을 반복하면서 우리는 습관을 형성하게 됩니다. 우리가 바꾸고 싶은 습관, 습관이 있다면 그 습관의 트리거와 보상을 파악하고 그에 따른 새로운 루틴을 만들어내는 것이 중요합니다. 우리는 새로운 습관을 형성하고 기존의 나쁜 습관을 개선할 수 있습니다. 자, 지금부터 뇌를 조정해보세요. 당신은 우주의 유일한 사람입니다.